What up, what up? Coming at you live, coming at you live. It's your boy Skills, and I'm here to give you Skills on Sports. This is week 4 of our endeavor. You will see that I am not in a studio, I am in my living room, and it is early in the day, middle part of the day, so there may be some background noise from this, that, or the other. Maybe some kids playing, maybe the occasional siren, things like that. Please bear with me. But that's all right. We have a lot to get into today. But before I do, I want to introduce my special guests I have for today, Mr. Vita Blue, Mr. Wilt Chamberlain, and Mr. Stephen Curry. Gifted to me, Vita was gifted to me by my boy Raph. I'd like to give him a shout out. And then these two guys were gifted to me a little earlier this year from my boy Dave. Shout out to Dave. I love these guys. I collect bobbleheads, and with Vita's recent passing, this is a great addition to the collection. And they will be sitting off. Well, I don't have anywhere to really put them on camera, so for now they will be sitting off camera. But in the future, we'll rectify that. So much to get into today. It is Friday. It is June 1st. I don't know where to start. Well, I do know where to start, but I don't know where. I honestly don't know where this is going to take us. So I will start with this question. You guys remember that time Denver beat Miami in Game 1 of the 2023 NBA Finals? If I remember correctly, Nikola Jokic had a triple-double, which has got to be about the 4,000th of his career. And, it's this series, it's no one really knows. A lot of the NBA Finals, you know which way it's going to go, but we don't really know who's going to win this NBA Finals. Both of these teams are pretty stacked. They don't have a lot of weaknesses. Denver's going, what I've noticed, Denver's already tight rotations. Going to get even tighter, it looks like. They went 8 deep on Monday, and why not? Why not run the starters? All the starters played between 36 and 44 minutes the other night, and I say why not? Because there's going to be, if you don't know, if this series goes all 7 games, there's going to be between every 2 games, there's going to be 2 days off, except if I remember correctly, it's the games 3 and 4. I don't know where I wrote that down, but I'm pretty sure it's between games 3 and 4 where they'll have the 1 day off. It'll be a Thursday. And then every other games in the series, if it goes 7, we'll have 2 full days off in between. I don't know if that's ever happened before. So, you got a young guy, a young team, a young lineup in the Nuggets. The oldest starter is KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. He's 30. Jokic is 28. Aaron Gordon is 28. Murray, I believe, is 26, if I'm not mistaken. And, of course, the young man, I'm missing someone. Oh, yeah, Michael Porter. Michael Porter is 24, if memory serves. So these guys we're not talking like my Warriors, unfortunately, who are, just not young anymore. We're talking about some relatively young guys who should be able to give Michael Malone, should be able to give him extended minutes in each game of the playoffs, barring any physical setbacks. And if you saw the game, there's so many things I want to talk about from that game. Miami shot 2 free throws, which is an all-time, and when I say 2 free throws, I mean 2 free throws for the entire game. That is an all-time NBA Finals low. Might even be playoffs low. I should have specified. But it's a low. It's pretty hard in today's NBA, or any NBA, to shoot just 2 free throws. Those 2 free throws came in the third quarter by the backup, the reserve forward, Haywood Highsmith. I'm sorry, that was early in the second quarter. He was fouled on a putback attempt by Christian Braun. And that was all Miami got from the line the whole game. There were no bonus free throws. Nothing. And it wasn't a case of them going too wild with the 3. They shot 39, but that's really par for the course in today's NBA. Most teams are going to shoot somewhere around 40 per game, as cringy as that is to say and realize. But, Jimmy Butler said after the game, him included, that the team just was not aggressive enough, and it shows right there. And I went up and down Twitter that night. I used my own eyes, and as far as anybody, one thing is not being said is that the referees did not do a poor job. That Miami did not earn more than those 2 free throws by what they saw from the officials. So Miami's going to have to figure out something to do differently if they want to, because 93 points, that's not going to cut it. And Denver's already a tough defensive team, and Miami's defense held them to 104. And this is a team that scores usually somewhere around, they average 115 during the regular season. They average 115 during all the playoff rounds prior to this one, and so Miami had it, kept them 11 points below their average, but their own offense stalled out. They did not get a lot of production from people who needed to produce, and from all the way down to Duncan Robinson. And Bam had a good game. He was 13 of 25, 26 points, 13 rebounds, so he had a good offensive game. And Gabe Vincent chipped in 19. He was 5 of 10 from 3, but you have guys like Max Struss, who they kept going to over and over again, but he was 0 for 9 from 3, 0 for 10 overall from the field in 21 minutes. Duncan Robinson continues to not have his touch. He could have won game, I think it was game 6, the one that Miami lost to Boston. He had a chance to win that game at least once that I remember offhand, maybe even twice, with an open 3 that he clanked. And in this game 1 of the finals, he was 1 for 6. Highsmith had 18 points, but a lot of that was in garbage time toward the end. It wasn't really like what equates to garbage time, because Miami did have the 24-point lead at one point in the third. That was whittled down to about, what was it, 9 points? It was 96-87 late in the fourth. And then they had to kind of amp things up a little bit to keep that from evaporating, but they did eventually hold off Miami, I'm sorry. Denver did hold off Miami. Kyle Lowry had 11 off the bench, and Miami only turned the ball over 8 times. So this is one of those weird games where you do a lot of things right. One of your star players has a big game from that end of the floor, and it's just not enough. Denver's so good, and you get a triple-double from Jokic, who had 14 assists, and a lot of those assists were just beautiful to watch. Looks like the guy sometimes has eyes in the back of his head, and he's got people legitimately asking on legitimate forums, is he the best passer ever? And I never saw Bob Cousy. I never saw. I didn't see a whole lot of early John Stockton. I saw late John Stockton. I didn't see a ton of Magic. I saw a very late Magic Johnson. So I've seen some of the. I saw Jason Kidd, who's up there. I can't tell you if Jokic is better than the early guys, but sometimes he's right up there with Kidd to me. As far as guys I saw from beginning to end, I think Kidd's probably the best passer I saw. And if Jokic is below him, it's really not by that much. It really isn't, in my opinion. Jamal Murray chipped in 26 points, 10 assists. We had Michael Porter didn't have a good night, but he didn't have to. We got Aaron Gordon chipping in with 16 points. Aaron Gordon was a bully inside, or especially early on. He was just muscling his way through the paint, just putting in shot after shot inside. We forget the kind of player Aaron Gordon can be when he's healthy and motivated, and he's usually, he's never been a superstar. I mean, don't let the dunks fool you. He's been a great dunker in his career, but he's usually a guy who's just not going to dominate a game. You're not going to build a team around him, but in a role like this is where he should have always been, in a supporting role on a team with at least 2 players better than him. And unfortunately, in Miami, Orlando, I'm sorry, that wasn't always the case. There were some guys who could score a lot, but Gordon would kind of, when I would see him play, sometimes it just kind of looked like he was trying to do a little more than what he should have had to do, should have been ever asked to do. And it was not hard to see why he wanted to trade out of there, even though they had made the playoffs 2 years prior to the season he has to be traded. Denver seems like probably the best place for him to be right now. A player like him who's going to give you about 16 points, going to give you about 7 rebounds a game, and he's going to give you some solid defense when he's right, and then he's going to always compete. He's a hard worker, and he just made some of those Miami defenders look silly. The way he was just going right through them like butter on a couple of baskets inside. So good for Aaron Gordon. Jamal Murray had a couple early dunks. There was just no inside presence for Miami early on. That's not all on Bam. I mean, some of that was a strategic move by Denver to get Bam out of the way. Now, Bam's not a great defender, never really has been, but getting, anytime you get a 7-footer out of the way, you're going to have easier time scoring inside. And that seems to be what happened. This game 2 will start on Sunday, June 4th, and it's going to be a good one. And if Miami falls behind 2-0, I don't see them coming back. I do not see them coming back from 2-0. Not like Boston almost came back from freaking 3-0. There's nothing against Spoelstra or anybody on that team, but Denver's just that good. Denver's a lot for a 53-win team. Denver is one of the best 53-win teams I've seen in a long time. They are now 9-0 at home in the postseason. This postseason, that's not easy to do, guys. It's not easy to do, and for all of you who really, who wanted to see the sexier names in the playoffs like LeBron and the Lakers or Tatum and the Celtics, if you're not paying attention to this team, you're missing out on some good basketball. They don't have a great bench, but they got one of the best starting lineups you could ask for under an NBA with a salary cap with 2 superstars and the rest of those guys. Denver is my pick to win the finals. That's what I'm picking. If I have to pick one of the two, I'm going to pick the Nuggets to win their first ever NBA championship. And while I'm on the Nuggets, I want to branch out to 2 different topics that I didn't get to last week. And one of those topics is the retirement of longtime Nuggets superstar Carmelo Anthony, who was one of the 20 all-time NBA scorers, one of the best guys ever, especially of his era. When you need 2 points, sometimes 3 points, Carmelo will get them for you. Again, he could do it a variety of different ways. He was a scorer. He was a scorer. He was a big body who could do so many different things with the basketball in his hand. The main knock on this guy in his career was when the basketball was not in his hand, he was pretty much useless. I would say useless might be a stretch, but he was not nearly as effective a guy when he was asked to distribute or defend, rebound. And not that he was a lazy player, but he was one of those guys who seemed to me that he was more motivated when he was on top of his offensive game than not. He's one of those guys, if he was 2 for 11 from the floor, you might see a little bit less effort on the other end. Where if he were like 8 of 11, he might have that extra pep in his step, might crash the boards a little harder, might stand his ground a little longer, guarding somebody trying to go inside. And but Anthony's had plenty of detractors over the years for a lot of different reasons. He wanted out of Denver, made no secret about it, and by some accounts didn't really give his best in his final days there for George Karl. There was the whole thing with his fight with who was the guy from the Knicks he fought with? Was it Jared Jeffries? I forgot. He had that fight with the Knicks where he punched the guy and then backpedaled all the way out of bounds the other way. He bounced around from after he left the Knicks, he went to what was the Rockets, the pit stop in Atlanta. Then he went to can't keep track. Yeah, he made a number of stops after that. It was important for a while. Resurrected his career after not playing. I think he sat out the whole season, didn't play. Went back to Portland, had a good year coming off the bench, and playing with Damian Lillard. And later on, he goes to the Lakers and fills that role pretty well. But at the end of the day, Carmelo is always going to be known for his scoring, known for his mid-range game, known for being able to back smaller guys down, all the things he could do offensively. And scoring in the NBA is not an easy thing to do. I mean, Miami proved that last night. Was it? Why did I say last night when that game was not last night? But anyway, Miami proved that was last night. Today's Friday. Anyway, forgive me, guys. I might cut that part out. It is not easy to score baskets in the NBA at will, or seemingly at will. Kevin Durant can do it. Sometimes Stephen Curry can do it. LeBron James can do it. The list is short. Guys who can just fill up the basket with 20, 25 points without a whole lot of effort. Carmelo can do it. And he did it for a long time. And he did it for the most part, with the exception of those 2 incidents I told you about, with class. And he was respected. A lot of guys had a lot of good things to say about Carmelo Anthony. And I think a telling thing about Carmelo is that Kobe Bryant, the late great Kobe Bryant, spoke highly of him as a man, as a player. And Kobe Bryant was not a guy who had low standards. So if he says something good about you, chances are it's true. So Carmelo Anthony, 19 years in the NBA. He was in the same draft as LeBron James. I believe he went third in that draft to Denver. Best known for his time with the Nuggets and the Knicks. Never got a championship, but was usually in the playoff hunt every year. Great career. I don't have his career totals points in front of me. Let me look that up real quick. You need to know this. Bear with me. This is one of the few things I did not look up. Luckily, I have the NBA page open in front of me, and I can find this hopefully fairly quickly. Come on, browser. People are waiting. Okay, Carmelo Anthony. Yes, he was the third overall pick, and he finished up with... Geez, why is this hard to find? It should be 28,289 points, which puts him firmly on the all-time list at 11. He is the 11th all-time scorer in NBA. Oh, wait, no, they were factoring in something else. He is the 9th all-time scorer in NBA history, just behind Shaq, just ahead of Moses. That's pretty good. That's something to be proud of. Great career for Carmelo Anthony. Now, I want to ask you guys this. If Carmelo Anthony and Nikola Jokic, if both their careers ended right now, if Jokic just said, screw it, I'm out of the finals, I don't want to play anymore, and neither one of them have that championship, they both wore number 15 for the Nuggets. They both played for the Nuggets for many years. They both did a lot of great things in the Nuggets uniform. Who do you think is the better number 15 Denver Nugget? Is it Carmelo, the big-time scorer? Is it a two-time MVP Jokic? That may be a stupid question to ask, but there's a lot of people who aren't sold on Jokic. So I just want to know what y'all think if Anthony would be your number one choice. And plus, there's more people who look up, who idolize a player like Anthony, who's just stylish and fun to watch, more than, let's say, someone like Jokic, who's a little on the slow side, not very athletic. So... however you can find a way to tell me what you think, tell me what you think. I'm on Twitter at the Skillz Report. There's one good way to let me know. Moving on. The other thing I want to bring up, we have a segment here because I take blood pressure medicine. I take 2 of them, actually. This is one of them. Because I get a little hot sometimes. I run a little hot when it comes to my sports and when it comes to my other things in life. So I figured, why not have a section, if you're new to this video here, if you're new to me and Skillz On Sports, why not have a segment dedicated to why Skillz is on pills, shortened to Skillz On Pills. And so this week's Skillz On Pills segment is devoted to research. Why? I had to research basic facts about Miami and those 2 free throws they shot, which set a record in the NBA. I had to dig and dig and dig on my own to find out what record they broke, because no outlet reporting on the record breaking would tell itself, reported itself whose record they broke. You cannot tell. This is a problem in the media. This is a problem in print media, especially when you share a record that's been broken and you don't tell whose record is broken. You're doing incomplete reporting. You're not doing your full job. Of course we're going to wonder whose record broke. Who's going to know what record the 2 free throws in game 1 broke by Miami? Huh? No one's going to know that. I had to research it. It should have been, I went to ESPN.com. I went to NBA.com. I was on Twitter. I was on, what was it, what the stats? Elias didn't even have it that I saw. Basketball Reference. I had to dig and dig and dig and find out. I don't remember what I did to find it out, but I had to find out that the record Miami broke for those 2 free throws, the previous record holder was the 1983 Lakers, who in Game 2 of the 1983 NBA Finals shot 5 free throws and lost to the 76ers, and as part of a sweep. And then that was the previous record that was broken last night by the Magic. So I had to find out that the Lakers shot 5 free throws, and that was the all-time old record. listen, media, if anyone out there in the media sees this and you report a record being broken, you got to tell what the record was, what the old record was that was broken. All right? Because otherwise you're going to get me all hot and messed up and angry, and I'm going to have to take more pills. Jeez. Yeah, while I'm on the topic, just know that my Warriors had the previous second worst free throw total in a finals game. The 22 Warriors shot 8 free throws, made them all, in Game 6 of the clinching Game 6 of the 2022 NBA Finals. So it's not always a recipe for disaster to shoot a low amount of free throws, but it certainly helps. Okay? That's that. I was going to tell you that record, but we'll skip that. Moving on. I think I want to talk a little bit about the NBA coaching carousel. We got a lot of baseball stuff to get into as well. So I want to talk about what's going on with all the coaches changing places and why I think it's a little silly. But then again, I'm not on the inside. Maybe there's reasons that I don't know about. Hired this week by the Detroit Pistons for 6 years and $78 million was the recently fired Suns coach Monty Williams. Also hired this week by the Bucks was longtime NBA assistant Adrian Griffin, former NBA journeyman player, who was a member of the 06 Mavericks that went to the NBA Finals and lost to the Heat, and was also a member of the 08 Sonics, the last Sonics team in history, unless they get resurrected down the road. Also changing addresses, the fired Raptors coach Nick Nurse has gone to the 76ers to replace Doc Rivers. There's no contractual terms for that yet. Frank Vogel, who didn't coach NBA last year, was previously the Lakers head coach and what led to that 2020 title. Went to the Suns on a 5-year deal. I don't have money terms for that. We have a number of guys changing addresses. And here's an interesting tidbit before I go into my little coaching rant. Joel Embiid of the 76ers is going to be the first reigning MVP with a new head coach the following season since Magic Johnson had Mike Dunleavy Sr. take over for Pat Riley prior to the 1990-91 season. So it's been 33 years since that happened. 33 years since the reigning MVP had to come back with a new coach next year. I think it's pretty interesting. It's also pretty telling because on paper, it's hard to see how any of these changes are going to make a difference. You're just recycling the same guys, right? And you're recycling the same guys, and in some of these cases, from the outside looking in, it's hard to see why these guys were fired, and it's hard to see why the new guy is going to be any different. Now, I'm not saying Nick Nurse, Frank Vogel, Monty Williams, and the like are all the same guy. They're not. They're different guys, and I realize sometimes you got to have a different voice when you're running an NBA team, any kind of pro sports team. That same message can get stale, can get old. But what I can't figure out is how if you're the Raptors. So this is just from the outside looking in. All right, this is Skillz on Sports. I give my opinion. I'm not inside, but I do have opinions, and I'm allowed to have opinions. So shut up. When you're the Raptors, for example, and you have Dwayne Casey leading that team to probably the best, I think it was 5 straight playoff appearances, the best stretch in its history, and you move him because you want to get over the hump, and you bring in a guy who you think is going to get you over the hump in Nick Nurse, and what does he do? He does get you over the hump. No, granted, we won't talk about the Warriors being injured or anything like that because you don't want to make excuses or anything like that, but the truth is, I don't know how they would have won if Kevin was playing, but we'll never know. You bring in this guy, he does exactly what you want him to do. He has you in contention the following year, wins Coach of the Year in 1920 after winning the 2019 championship. Then 2021 comes along, the 2020-21 season comes along, which is an absolute nightmare for reasons that I don't think Red Auerbach himself could have made a difference on that team. Remember that year? The follow-up COVID year, the Raptors were not allowed to play in Canada. They had 5 or 6 different homes they played in. And that was the year that the whole starting lineup missed 15, 20 games. They went 27-45. There was no way Nurse was going to do anything with that team. So I don't even count that season. That was not his fault. That could not have been solved by anyone. Then in 21-22, they go to the playoffs again. which all you want to compete, right? You're competing, you're contending. I'm not saying you settle for just making the playoffs, but I'm also saying you have a good thing going. Why do you not remember what you were before Nurse and Casey came along? You were a joke, all right? Then Nurse finally has a bad season in 2022-23. I don't remember any specific stories. Maybe you do. I don't pretend to read every single piece of literature about every single team in the NBA. I did not hear anything about Nurse losing his team. I did not hear anything about. By the way, the Raptors are 41-41 and lost in play-in. I don't remember anything particular about trouble, discord in that Toronto organization, like you may hear in other organizations. And yet Nurse is out. He has one bad year that could, I say the word could, be blamed on coaching, and he's out. And that's just, you penalize a guy for success. He wins you a ring, and what do? You boot him out 4 years later. Because he has the audacity to not win you another one in a league with 29 other teams. And it just doesn't sit well with me. I don't know everything that went on behind the decision, but I do know that from the outside looking in, it's just gross. It's gross that Frank Vogel was out of a job 2 years after winning the Lakers their first championship in a while. And now he's going to be leading the Phoenix Suns again. After now I think the Suns situation might be a little different because Monty Williams was in a situation where Phoenix changed ownership midseason. And Phoenix went all in, getting Kevin Durant on board during the season, and it didn't work out. They lost in the second round. Yet Monty Williams is the one who's going to take the fall. I know that's how it goes in pro sports. The managers and coaches take the fall. Monty Williams, to me anyway, is not your ordinary coach. He's done some very good things, leading some very less than, let's just say he's led some teams that were not favored to go far. He's led them pretty far. He came within, he almost got the Suns a ring 2 years ago, and now he's out. That's just, that's gonna happen when you change owners and change management. And from what I read, the management was never really high on Monty for whatever reason. I don't know why, but he's going to be asked to turn around Detroit, and Detroit has pieces. Detroit can do some things if he can get get Cade Cunningham back healthy, get maybe one or two more guys in there. Maybe in the draft he'll get somebody who can pick up a couple of buckets for him. He can make it. He can help make Detroit a little bit better, and they can't get much worse. But he could help Detroit win, I would say, somewhere between 30 and 40 games. I'd be surprised if they won any less than between 30 and 40 games if they got healthy and if they get a good player in the draft. And it's not a great draft, but on paper, but sometimes the draft can be, it can be misleading. You never know. Draymond Green turned out to be a Hall of Fame player, second round pick. So, I've got to share this with you. This has nothing to do with anything, but it was just an interesting tidbit I picked up while checking out draft notes for next season. Is that the Boston Celtics are going to pick in the second round this coming draft. They're going to pick 25th overall. And I don't know if this ever happened before, but what I do know is that Boston is the sixth different team to have that draft pick, that particular draft pick. That draft pick has moved between 5 other teams before landing in Boston. And if you'll indulge me, I'd like to share with you where it originated and how it got to Boston. This was originally Portland's pick in the draft. Portland sent it to Cleveland in February 2019, along with Nick Stauskas and some guy for Rodney Hood. From there, that pick goes to Detroit in June 2019. It's just a few months after that. In a trade that sent Kevin Porter, who was the 30th pick in that year's draft, to Cleveland, who got that draft pick from and then 3 others from Cleveland. So now Detroit has the pick. You with me so far? It's June 2019. Now Detroit has the 25th pick in the 2020, or it has a second round pick in the 2020 draft. We didn't know it's 25th yet, but Detroit has a pick. Then Detroit sent it to the Clippers in November of 2020 in a 3-team trade with the Pistons and the Nets that was centered around Luke Kennard. So now the Clippers have that pick. They, in March 2021, which is about 4 months later, sent that pick to Atlanta as part of the Rajon Rondo Lou Williams deal. When Lou Williams went to Atlanta and Rondo went to the Lakers, or Clippers, I'm sorry. And then finally, the last move, unless Boston does something between now and the draft, Atlanta sent that pick to the Celtics in an August 21 three-team trade with Sacramento, in which the biggest name was Tristan Thompson. So I don't know if any other draft picks in history have moved that much, especially in that period of time, but I just thought that was an interesting note to share with you. And if I find any more like it, I'll tell you, unless you tell me on Twitter or some other way not to, because that may just put some of you to sleep. I get it. But I just thought that was interesting. Going back to Monty Williams a little bit, some of the pieces he'll have Bojan Bogdanovic, although he's aging. He's gonna come back next year. He's due to come back next year, unless this all if Detroit doesn't make any moves. Because he just got a 2-year deal in October that's going to carry him through 2025. He was a 20-point game scorer last year, but he also missed a bunch of games. They're going to have Cade coming back, and Cade was off to a pretty decent start last year, scoring-wise. He wasn't shooting the ball well, but he was otherwise putting the ball in the basket before he got hurt. Poison Ivy's still there, the young point guard. The rookie, he was a rookie, and then as we call him, Beef Stew. Isaiah Stewart, he's a guy, he's a body who can do some things. He's not afraid of LeBron James, obviously, but Killian Hayes has shown some flashes at the end of last season. Of course, he's been one of the I see the hot players that you could find in the NBA the last couple of years since he entered the league. But, these are all guys, these are former first-round picks. They've obviously got some ability. Can Monty Williams do some things with these guys? We'll have to wait and see. I mean, the draft will play a role. They got to get a couple veterans, and also, can't forget, the former Warrior, James Wiseman, still in Detroit. What's he going to do? Can he build upon some of the things he did once he got to Detroit and finally got some real playing time and got some trust from his coaches? Because James Wiseman was almost a complete and total bust in Golden State. He'd flash ability, but then he'd get cooked on defense. Or he'd turn the ball over, or otherwise they couldn't play him while competing for a championship. So he goes to Detroit, he does a couple things there. Makes a little noise, improves his numbers. There's something to build on. I think when you have a guy that young and a guy that big, you can't give up on him. They're going to give him a chance. So Wiseman, it's all Wiseman what he's going to do with that chance. Other news to talk about: Shannon Sharpe leaving Skip Bayless from the Undefeated show. And if you know, these two have a history. They've been co-hosts of the show for a number of years now. Shannon is Shannon, Skip is Skip. And you cannot expect two men like that who have never, ever, ever been shy about anything on their mind and sharing it. You can't expect them to have all that great of a relationship, and they didn't. And it came out on the air sometimes. I'm sure it came out off the air sometimes. But now Shannon is a free agent. Who knows where he's going to end up next, but we do know that whoever's going to be with Skip, I'm pretty sure Skip is going to make sure that this guy or gal is going to be a lot more timid than Shannon was. Skip, when he was with Stephen A. Smith, they had some legendary clashes, but Stephen A., for as brash and outspoken as he can be, Shannon's on a whole new level. Shannon was known in the NFL for as much for his trash talk as he was for catching the football. So it's going to be interesting to see which way the network goes, bringing in a replacement. Because Skip, say what you will about Skip, and most people have, what they do say about Skip is not positive. But the guy brings in viewers. The guy brings in clicks. The guy brings in money. Do you think if there were any other way to make money without Skip there, they would do it? Of course they would. They wouldn't have Skip there. Nobody. I don't know anyone who is publicly gone on record as being a fan of Skip. So I'm somewhere in the middle on him. He said some things that he really shouldn't have said over the years. We all remember is it Devin Hamlin? DeMar Hamlin. We remember that situation from the Bills defender who was down on the field last year, and how Skip wanted the game to still be. His concern was more for the game than it was for the kid's health. So it seemed. So he's known to put his foot in his mouth more than once, and he probably has not done it for the last time. But the next time he does it, he will not have Shannon Sharpe for a partner. So keep your eyes on that. Bob Myers, the longtime Warriors executive, one of the architects of their championship team, along with his predecessor Larry Riley, has stepped down as Golden State's what is his title? Basketball operations pres or whatever. He's the general manager, and he's like the president of basketball ops, something along those lines. You think I would know that sort of thing by memory, but I really don't follow. Titles are ambiguous. But anyway, he was the head executive on that team for many years, and now he's going to step back and watch as Curry and Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green age their way out of Golden State, out of the NBA. Because I don't care what anyone says. I think part of the reason why he's stepping down at this time, yes, there's burnout, and he admitted there's, in so many words, that he is burnt out. He was having trouble sleeping, staying asleep. He'd wake up in the middle of the night, worried about work, as a lot of us with stressful jobs do. I've had it, and my jobs have not been probably a quarter as stressful as Myers' jobs. But I know, I'm willing to bet, at least part of his decision is he did not want to be the guy to have to break this team up. And the Warriors are coming closer and closer to the end of the finish line as an elite team. The guys that have built, that have helped lead them to this championship run, those three men I just mentioned, along with Coach Steve Kerr, are not going to get any better. In fact, Klay Thompson's already shown serious decline in his play if you go by what he showed in the playoffs this past May. And Draymond Green, of course, he might opt out just this offseason. He might be gone as we speak by the time you watch this. Who knows? Well, actually, let's not go that far. I don't know when the exact date he can opt out is. Probably not until after the finals. And Curry, of course, he's probably not going anywhere if for no other reason all the money he's making. But Myers would be faced with very tough choices coming up. I don't know if he wants to. I'm not saying he's soft or scared or anything like that, but I am saying he's connected to these guys. He drafted Green, or at least he was an assistant GM when Green was drafted and when Thompson was drafted. Actually, did he? He was assistant for Thompson and he drafted Green. He did draft Green, okay. And then, of course, he inherited Curry, but he may as well have, in a way, drafted him too because they've been together so long. So you don't want to be that guy. You never want to be the guy to have to tell people you're that connected to, that tied to, hey, you've outlived your usefulness. Thanks for the memories. See you later. And Myers is just not that kind of guy. At least the Myers I've watched on TV and watched in interviews and heard in interviews. I mean, remember that when Kevin Durant got hurt in the finals in 19, and Myers was on in front of the media, and he actually broke down in tears. This is a guy who cares. He really cares about these men, not just as basketball players. He cares about them as people. And as people, it's going to be really hard to make decisions like that. I get that. And Myers, for all the reasons that he said in his interview, or his conference, I should say, plus the ones I'm giving you, it's probably the best time for him to go. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame in all likelihood, no matter what happens. So I wish him the best of luck. And I also want to tell you that I did not know this, but he was a teammate at UCLA of Tyus Edney and the O'Bannon brothers. If I ever knew that, I had forgotten that Bob Myers played college basketball at UCLA back in the day. And I probably watched them play because I watched some of those UCLA teams when they went up against Cal. So best of luck to him. We'll touch on just real quick because we're already 2/3 of the way through the show somehow. Ja Morant, his troubles are far from over, it would appear, because this past week Adam Silver went public with the news that they have basically dug up more facts about Ja, and the intonation is that these facts are not favorable for Ja. And we know this because Silver said that he's not going to announce the whole thing. Whatever they have found on Ja is not going to be revealed until after the finals, as to not distract from the NBA Finals, which I think was a very smart move by this man, by Commissioner Silver. Good for him. But it also pretty much tells you that they found some more bad stuff about Ja. And it's probably going to cost him a very lengthy NBA vacation. And all I can say is, I liked Ja Morant when when it was just about him, the player. I liked Ja Morant when he played for a team that was not seemingly out to make enemies and detractors of every other NBA team and every NBA fan, reporter, any personnel, period, connected to the league. And now, Dylan Brooks is out in Memphis. Is John Morant going to follow? What is this news going to be? How bad is it? Is he going to be even allowed to play next season? What has this guy done? What are his motives? You have, when you're a guy like him and you have everything. And I already touched on this in a previous show, so I'm not going to go on too long, but when you have everything and you just want to piss the way to look hard to impress who, it boggles the mind. And I'm usually a guy who can see things from different points of view, but I can't understand this at all. Okay, so we're going to move on now. I'm going to transition out to some news. What's going on in the world of baseball this past week? What's going on in baseball since we last talked? I really should have got something to drink before I start this. My mouth is getting dry, so bear with me, people. Tampa Bay still holding on to first place in the American League East. 40-18, 26-6 at home. Although on the 29th of May, Marcus Stroman of the Cubs hit them. Their only hit was a Wander Franco single leading off the 7th inning. They got a couple guys coming to the bullpen. Sean Armstrong is due to be back in the bullpen pretty soon, and they just signed Robert Stevenson later to the Pirates. So losing Pete Fairbanks to a hip injury on May 28th should not hurt them as bad as it might have otherwise. The Tampa Bay is leading the league in home runs, 103. It's a good, comfortable league, and they got 5 guys already with double digits, if you can believe that. And either one of those guys is Franco or Brandon Lau, if you can believe that. So when Tampa Bay had the idea back in, 2000, when they brought in Vinny Castilla and Greg Vaughn to go along with Jose Canseco and Fred McGriff, they were just going to mash the ball and just, mash opponents into submission and win that way. They had the right idea. It's just coming to fruition 23 years later than they envisioned. Hold on to your hats. Baltimore is in second place with a 35-21 record. And they have just acquired Aaron Hicks, later the Yankees. The longtime Yankee outfielder was brought in as a free agent after being cut by the Yankees, and he is looking to get his career back on track after a pretty poor stretch of play this year and last, and some injuries. So we're wishing. Folks, it appears we have breaking news. We have just received word that Lakers superstar LeBron James is leaving Los Angeles. According to sources close to James, he is traveling a few miles south to nearby Anaheim to visit a friend who lives there. When asked the reason why James would do such a thing, a representative told us, sometimes he comes here, sometimes Bron goes there. At first glance, this does appear to be just the case of two friends hanging out, but there is the chance James is trying to give the Lakers a taste of what life will be like if he chooses to retire or play elsewhere next season. Stay with us for further updates on the ongoings of LeBron James, since that's what everyone wants to hear anyway. Despite what's going on in the finals, everyone only wants to hear about LeBron, so we will continue to give you updates as this show goes on. Moving back to Orioles news. Cedric Mullins to the injured list with a groin injury on May 30th. Also, the highly touted prospect Grayson Rodriguez was optioned to the minor leagues. His ERA is up around 7 or 8, whatever it was. He's not having a good year, so he's out. I don't think they'll miss a beat. The Orioles have been rolling lately. Kyle Gibson needs 4 more wins to get to 100 in his career. Good for him. The Yankees, 34-24, third place. Giancarlo Stanton and Josh Donaldson are due back from injury today, and also they are riding a 4-game win, or they were riding a 4-game winning streak in which they scored 10 runs in 3 of 4 games. Also, Aaron Judge, winner of the May American League Player of the Month. The man hit .342 with 12 homers and 25 RBI in 21 games, and he missed the first week of the month too. So, shout out to Aaron Judge for tearing it up. Also, Anthony Rizzo. He's one of the guys who's benefiting from the disappearance of the shift. He's up to 298 after batting 222, 248, 224 the previous 3 seasons, and we all know he's better than that. So, good on him for turning things around. However, the young shortstop who was all the rage in spring training, Anthony Volpe, he's 6 for his past 50. Things not going well for that young man. Toronto Blue Jays, 30-27, hanging in there 4th place in spite of Alek Manoah, who was a freaking Cy Young contender last year. He's fallen to 1-6 with a 5.46 ERA. Bo Bichette, however, on the opposite end of this things, batting 335, 12 homers, 39 RBI, MVP candidate, I would say, and certainly going to make the All-Star team. Brandon Belt, who was in such a horrible slump to begin the season, is up to 252. He started to heat up these past few weeks. I don't think that news is relevant. We'll move on. The Boston Red Sox, 5th place at 29-27 with a record that would put them in 2nd place in the American League Central and 3rd place in the American League West. That only goes for 5th place in the American League East. And that's before news broke this morning that Chris Sale was to the injured list with shoulder inflammation. And Sale's had all kinds of health physical problems these last few years. So hopefully that's just a minor setback. Although it does create an opportunity for Corey Kluber, the Klubot, who had been demoted to the bullpen, to win back a starting job now that he's back from paternity leave. Other news from the Red Sox, Trevor Story seems like he's going to be back a little bit sometime around the All-Star break. And Kenley Jansen reached 400 saves recently. He's up to 402 in his career. He's one of only 8 to do that. And he will need 21 more to pass Billy Wagner to move into 6th place all time. He's 7th. Craig Kimbrell, who we'll get to down the road, is number 8 with 400 even. Moving on to the American League Central. Minnesota Twins lead 30-27. Although they are leading Major League Baseball with 582 batting strikeouts, what's making the difference for them is their 3.49 team ERA, which is 2nd in the major leagues. Although on June 1st, which was yesterday, Byron Buxton, Carlos Correa, and Max Kepler all had to leave the game against the Guardians with various physical issues. Although they did get shortstop Jorge Polanco back from his hamstring injury. And then, if you don't know, quietly Sonny Gray started 11 games, got a 1.94 ERA. He's only won 4 of those games because, well, that's just the way it goes when you don't pitch but 5 innings to start, thanks to your manager. But he's 6 wins career from 100 wins in his career. So keep an eye out for Sonny Gray as the season goes on. Hopefully he'll get enough innings to qualify for more wins and reach that milestone. Good for Sonny Gray. After some years of struggle, he seems to be back on track. Detroit, 2nd place with a 26-28 record. Reliever Alex Lang is the reliever of the month in the American League. He was 7 for 7 in save ops, struck out 17 and 10 in 2/3 innings, had a 0.84 ERA. Unfortunately, bad news out of Detroit is that Eduardo Rodriguez, who was off to such a strong start to the season and had a strong start last week, his ERA is down at 2.13, guys. He is to the injured list with a finger injury, and hopefully it's not anything major. Not that Detroit's going to contend for anything, but still, Eduardo Rodriguez was, as you remember, he was beset last year by some personal issues, missed half the year. He was making up for that now, but now he's going to be on the sidelines for at least a week or two. So we'll see how that develops. Javier Baez is at 230 with 3 home runs. Detroit is not getting their bang for their buck there at all. And remember, he was benched early in the season for standing around watching as stuff went on around him. Miguel Cabrera is not playing much anymore, but he did have a 3-for-3 game against Texas on the 30th of May, which was a couple days ago. He also had 2 RBI, and he needs 7 more RBI to pass Melot for 13th all-time. Guardians, 25-31. 3rd place, in spite of Josh Bell, who's batting just .225 with 4 homers, 53 games. I want to tell you that the Logan Allen, who is tearing it up for Cleveland right now, with a 2-2 record and a 2.72 ERA and 7 starts. It's not the same Logan Allen that was with the Guardians/Indians from 19 to 22. Okay, these are 2 different guys. I'm not trying to be funny, or I'm not trying to be ironic or sarcastic. They're actually 2 different physical human beings who both happen to play for the Guardians in back-to-back years, who both happen to be named Logan Allen. I think they're both left-handers too. So the Logan Allen from before is now in the Colorado organization. I don't know if he's up in the majors or not, but this Logan Allen here has proven himself to be far and above better than his predecessor. So keep an eye out for him as the year goes on. Seems like he's going to be a good guy, good pitcher for the Guardians going forward. Remember Josh Naylor with the horrible leg injury from 2021 when he snapped his leg in the outfield when his teammate ran into it and flipped him over. Naylor had a 6 RBI game on May 31st at Baltimore, and he's leading the Guardians. I almost call him the Tribe. He's leading the Guardians with 8 home runs this season. So I think it's safe to say that Naylor has found his way all the way back from that horrific leg injury. Good for him. He's playing a lot of first base. He's going to the DH now. He doesn't really play the outfield much anymore. But he's certainly making an impact for his Guardians and his teammates. So good for him coming back from that horrible injury. If you haven't seen it, I don't recommend looking directly at it. It was bad. Chicago White Sox, maybe the most irrelevant team in baseball. Remember they signed, they're 23 and 35 in fourth place, by the way. They signed Andrew Benintendi to that 5-year, $75 million deal last December. And so far in 55 games, they've gotten from Benintendi 0 home runs. Thought you might want to know that. Also, Tim Anderson has played 40 games, and he also has not hit a home run. It's a guy who usually hits around 20 every year. So something going on with the fences at Chicago. I don't know. If are they suddenly playing the Polo Grounds? I don't know. Something going on there with the power swings of the Chicago White Sox. The big news out of Chicago, though, was the May 30th return of closer Liam Hendricks, who was diagnosed with lymphoma, stage 4 lymphoma, in January of this year. Now, in May of this year, he's back pitching. He didn't have a good outing, but he hit 96. He threw 27 pitches. He's healthy. He's alive. He's emotionally probably in as good as a place you could be after going through what he went through. All the respect, all the love for Liam Hendricks going forward. The former Oakland Athletic, I see a lot of him when he's playing with the A's. He seems like one of those guys it's easy to root for. So good for him making it back from his diagnosis. And the Kansas City Royals, 17 and 39. Bobby Witt is hitting 228, although he's still hitting the ball of the ballpark. They cut the longtime third baseman Hunter Dozier. Officially last week he was released. He had been with the Royals off and on since 2016 and had been a very great player in 2019, but it had steadily regressed since then. So it was pretty much time. Other news, the Royals nearly had a perfect game on May 29th. They threw 7 perfect innings against the Cardinals. First one by Josh Stallman as an opener, and then the next 6 by Mike Mayers. However, that was broken up in the 8th. Still pretty cool for them to get as far as they got. Also, Kansas City, don't trade Salvador Perez. I want to see his number get retired. Well, they haven't retired a number in a long time. It's time for someone else's number to go up there. And if he's traded, it'll hurt his chances. American League West. Texas, 35 and 20. Leading Major League Baseball in runs scored. Nathan Eovaldi, AL Pitcher of the Month. He was 4-0, 0.96 ERA, 31K in 37.2 innings. Started 5 games. Also, Texas boasts the American League Rookie of the Month with Josh Jung, second straight, actually. This guy hit, or he ended the month, I should say, with a 14-game hitting streak and hit 318 in 26 games and slugged 561. So you got 2 guys down there getting it done for Bruce Bochy down in Texas. John Gray and Martin Perez are both 6-1 for the Rangers. Right now, they're actually, the one guy who's not contributing a ton to the rotation would be Jacob deGrom, the big $400 zillion offseason signing. And he's pitched well when he's been out there, but he hasn't been out there much. He started 6 games. So if deGrom can get healthy and give the Rangers what they're expecting from him, this is a team that looks like they're going to go all the way down to the wire, at the very least. So, also, I want to make note of this Major League debut from Grant Anderson. Made his Major League debut at age 27 on May 30th. Struck out the first 4 Tigers he faced, and struck out 7 of the 9 total batters he faced that day. Pretty impressive debut from the number 21 pick by the Mariners in the 2018 draft. The Houston Astros are in second place, 33 and 23. Lead the majors in ERA, 3.23. They swept Oakland. Although closer Ryan Presley blew his first save of the year, first blown save since July 30th of 2022. So he had a pretty long streak of success going there. That's now over. And a wasted the 7th career Grand Slam of Jose Altuve, still swinging a powerful bat as he gets older. This is a team that's getting it done in spite of no Jose Urquidy, no Christian Garcia, and with Justin Verlander now pitching for the Mets. Alex Bregman was cold. He's been cold all season long. If you've been following his team, he's just now starting to heat up as May drew to a close. He had a 7-game hitting streak to end the month and was batting .345 since May 16th. So good for Alex Bregman. you're still a fan of that guy after the cheating fiasco. Seattle's in third place, 29-27. In spite of Julio Rodriguez getting off to a cold start, he was only 2-4 through his first 44 games, but he closed May on an 18-for-43 streak, and that's in spite of an 0-for-5 on May 30th. Seattle won 7 of those last 10 games of Julio's hot streak, and but expect some familiar names to probably get the hammer dropped on it pretty soon. You got guys like Colton Wong hitting 117, AJ Pollock hitting 161, Eugenio Suarez is hitting 214. These are guys with long track records of success, and they're not getting it done this year for Seattle. And in spite of that, they're still hanging in there in third place. Bad news though, starter Marco Gonzalez left his May 28th start with a forearm problem. I don't think it's not the dreaded forearm tightness that usually leads to Tommy John surgery, but it's still something to keep an eye on. Oakland's 12-46, and their 6.63 team ERA is the second worst ever. If the season were to end today, it'd be the second worst ever behind the 1930 Phillies, who had a 6.71 ERA. Although the A's did take 2 of 3 from Atlanta, so there's something there. There's at least a little something to be happy about. Paul Blackburn, the All-Star last year, is coming back from his finger injury at long last. But Jesus Aguilar was cut on why he was signed in the first place, but who knows why anyone does anything there anymore. Huge news out of Atlanta. First place in the National League East, 33-23, although they're just 15-14 at home. Huge news. Mike Soroka, remember him? He's back. Mike Soroka, after nearly 3 years on the sidelines with back-to-back Achilles injuries, made his return to the major leagues on, was it May 20? Why didn't I write down the date? It was last week. He returned against the A's, went 6 innings, gave up 4 runs, all in the 5th inning. The guy hadn't pitched since August 3rd, 2020, when he tore his Achilles running the cover first base. Then the next year, he comes back less than a year later, tears his Achilles walking into the clubhouse, I think it was, something like that. But he's back, and he looked good. Good attitude, good spirits, good for Soroka. So that's 2 comebacks, although opposite ends of the spectrum. One was life-threatening. Liam Hendricks and Mike Soroka coming back to the big leagues. Big news there. And I'm very happy for both of them. Ronald Acuna is third in the National League with a .323 batting average, and the kid Bryce Elder has the NL's best ERA at 1.92. So that is offsetting the horrible slump by last year's Rookie of the Year, Michael Harris, who is in a 5-for-45 slump to end the month of May. Although he did hit a key home run on the 28th and made a great catch the next day, or was it 2 days later? The 26th and the 28th against the Phillies. New York Mets, 30-27, 3 games behind Atlanta, 3.5 games behind Atlanta. They have Pete Alonso hitting just .231, but with 20 home runs. Francisco Lindor is just a .212. But I want to tell you, David Robertson, who's like 112 years old now, is 10 for 11 in save-offs with a 190 with a why did I write down his ERA? I'm sorry. But yeah, David Robertson is going to get done at closer, and now the Scherzer and Verlander are back. Look for the Mets to make a move. Miami is 29-28, and this is in spite of a negative 54 run differential. They have scored 54 fewer runs than their opponents, and yet have a record over 500. Jorge Soler, remember him, the 2019 AL home run champ? I think he was the Major League home run champ that year. This guy was not too hot to begin the year, but 12 home runs in May, including a 5-game streak with a home run from May 23rd to 27th. And of course, Luis Arias, I have to always pronounce that name. I always screw his name up. Arias, once again, is leading his league in hitting. He's just like he was last year's American League batting champ. He's on pace now to be the National League batting champ at 381 through the end of May. And also the Marlins have some reinforcements coming back from injury in Trevor Rogers and AJ Puck. Philadelphia, fourth place. Fourth place at 25-31. Had a 4-game losing streak last week and got no home runs from JT Realmuto at all last month. This is a guy who usually hits around 20 per year. I want you to be aware that Cody Clemens, Rogers' son, is still getting some good run for the Phillies, and he's playing in place of Alec Bohm, who's had some hamstring problems lately. Cody he's not dominating, but he's hanging in there. He's playing a lot of first base for the Phillies, and it's just, I don't know if you just like watching for superstar sons and things like that. Cody's doing what he's got to do. And here's probably the most surprising news of the week is that Scott Rowland is being sent to the Phillies Wall of Fame. So Scott Rowland was surprising enough. I was less surprised when he was voted to the Baseball Hall of Fame than this because he didn't leave Philadelphia on good terms. This honor was announced on May 30th. He's going to be honored on September 22nd because he cannot make the May 30th event. Congratulations to Scott Rowland. Bryce Harper remains 12 home runs away from 300 in his career. The Nationals are 24-32, and there's just not really anything worth reporting there. Although Luis Garcia, the infielder, had a 6-hit game at Kansas City last week, and second national ever to do that behind Anthony Rendon in 2017. None of that is worth mentioning to me. Since we're already at what I hope will be my time limit. Milwaukee, first place in the National League Central, 30-27, in spite of a negative 25 run differential. If you don't know, Devin Williams, this is why they traded Josh Hader. This is why they had no problem trading Josh Hader last year. Devin Williams is the freaking truth. 10 of 10 in save ops, 0.46 ERA, 119 opponent batting average. This guy's trying to win the Cy Young. Milwaukee welcomed back Julio Teheran to the major leagues, the longtime Atlanta Braves starter, and he gave him a couple of good starts last week. Although Willie Adames, shortstop Willie Adames, was hit on May 26th in the head by a foul ball while sitting in a dugout against the Giants, he's reportedly all right and on track to return next week. So good for Willie for escaping serious damage there. Luke Voigt was cut. Former home run champ in 2020 is once again unemployed. He hit no home runs and 68 at-bats for the Brewers. And Christian Yelich is once again looking mortal, and this is year 3 out of 4 for. Actually, this is the 4th year in a row where he's looked mortal since winning MVP. So I don't think he's coming back. He's 31 now. He's going to be what he is now, I think, for the rest of his career, unless something really drastic changes. Pittsburgh 28-27, second place. Remember, they were 20-8 on April 29th. They have since struggled, but they did close May with 2 wins over my Giants, and they've got the second most steals in Major League Baseball with 62 behind Tampa Bay. Mitch Keller trying to win that Cy Young, 7-1, 325 and 12 starts. David Bednar trying to win some Cy Young consideration, 12 out of 13 in saves, 1.17 ERA as the closer. The Pirates, Andrew McCutchen, usually a lot of times we have a guy go back. It's the Jason Giambi thing where he goes back to his old city and sucks. However, Andrew McCutchen's hanging in there. He's not dominating like he did in his first time around, but his 272 average this year, if it holds up, would be his best since 2017, which was his last year in stint 1 with Pittsburgh. Cincinnati, third place, 26-31. Spencer Steer is the rookie of the National League Rookie of the Month. Corner infielder, 6 home runs, 19 RBI in 27 games. One more Pirate note I forgot to tell you. Outfielder Jack Suwinski hit 2 home runs into the McCovey Cove against my Giants in one game last week, and he's the first human being not named Barry Bonds on any major league team to do that. Although it was in a blowout loss. St. Louis Cardinals, 25-32, third place, fourth place, make that fourth place. They had this weird thing where they had 2 consecutive scheduled days off, May 31st and June 1st. I don't know what that's all about. I've never seen that before that I can remember. On May 29th, center fielder Lars Nootbaar exited with one of the weirdest injuries you'll ever see. It's worth looking up on MLB.com. He suffered what was identified as a back contusion while chasing down a ball in center field. It was non-contact. Somebody hit a ball to the right center field gap. He's playing center. He's running it down, and as he's running it down, he pulls up lame a few steps away. No one ever touched him. He didn't fall. He didn't run into anything, and he somehow got a back contusion out of that. I didn't know that was possible, but that's what happened to Lars. Chicago Cubs 24-31. Even with Marcus Stroman's one hitter against Tampa Bay, we told you about that earlier. One of their top guys on the mound is Justin Steele. He went down yesterday with a mild forearm strain. Hopefully that doesn't lead to Tommy John surgery. He's 6-2 with a 2.65 ERA and 12 starts. Cody Bellinger, who had such a great start to the year, is due back soon from his knee problem. And Kyle Hendricks made his return on May 25th, his season debut actually. He had that shoulder capsular tear, I believe it was called. He returned with a hit-and-miss outing, but he's back. He's the last remaining member of the 2016 Championship Cubs, so someone to watch there. In the National League West, and we'll close our show with these 5 teams. Arizona is 34-23, tied with the Dodgers at the moment for first place in the West. They've won 5 games in a row. Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly are getting it done at top of the rotation. They have a combined. I know I wrote that down somewhere, but God dang it. Well, I wrote it down somewhere, and I don't see where I wrote it down. But in any event, those 2 guys have both won 7 games. They both got ERA. They've got ERAs of 2.72 and 2.80 respectively. Carson Kelly's coming back for his broken arm any day now, it seems. And the mega signing of young Corbin Carroll, the guy who signed a $111 million deal with the Diamondbacks earlier this year, in spite of only playing, a month with the team or whatever it was. He's batting .282. He's slugging .503. He's got 9 homers and 14 steals. He's doing as well as you could expect for a guy with his experience in his position. So good for him. That contract. Well, there's a lot more. There's escalators in that contract. We'll talk about those another time because I'm running late. The Dodgers, as I said, 34-23, tied for first. Freddie Freeman has been unconscious, people. He ended May with a 20-game hit streak. He was the National League Player of the Month. He batted .400 with 6 homers and 26 RBI in May. He doubled 17 times in May alone. That would put him on pace for 102 doubles over the course of a full season. For the year, Freeman is at .336. He's his OBP is .408. His slugging is .567. He's got 23 season doubles, which is still on pace for 69, which will break the record. And for good measure, he's also stolen 8 bases. And I want to talk a little bit about Trace Thompson. Trace Thompson, you remember, first game of the year, 3 for 3 with a home run. Trace Thompson, a couple days ago, 3 for 3, or I should say 3 hits, including a home run. In between those two big games, 4 for 61 with 1 home run. 4 for 61, and he's been on the roster the whole season. I don't know how or why. Guys have been cut for far less than what he's shown these last few weeks. But man, geez, it's definitely all or nothing with this guy. I don't know how 4 for 61 in between those 2-3 hit games with his home run. I'm sorry, I was wrong. 3 home runs. He had 3 home runs in that first game of the season, not 1. What am I thinking? But in any event, 4 for 61. God be with him. My Giants are 28-28. They are second in major leagues with 549 batting strikeouts, but that's much better than they were about a month ago. They're getting production from a couple of rookies. Patrick Bailey, the catcher, Casey Schmidt, the infielder, have combined to bat 307 with 28 RBI in 37 games. On his birthday, his 24th birthday, Patrick Bailey had a 3-hit game. Had an RBI, a couple RBI. Mike Conforto's heating up for the Giants. He's up to 11 home runs in 50 games after a cold start. And Camilo Doval, the closer, was named the National League Relief Pitcher of the Month for the 3rd time. He had 11 saves and 11 chances and a 1.32 ERA in the month. Also, the Giants are getting production from the BB boys. And we haven't talked about BB in San Francisco since Barry Bonds, but I'm talking Logan Webb and Alex Cobb, who have combined to go 9-8 with a 2.78 ERA and 24 starts. And this after both of them did not have great beginnings to the season. In 4th place is San Diego, 26-30. They got the second worst average in Major League Baseball behind the A's at 222. Although Michael Wacha was the National League Pitcher of the Month, he went 3-0 with a 0.84 ERA and 5 starts. Manny Machado is due back today. I think he was just activated maybe this hour, maybe right before I came on the air. He had a broken hand from being hit by a pitch a couple weeks ago. Gary Sanchez is in town. He's now a Padre. He homered on May 31st. He also contributed to this very weird play I've never seen before, where basically there were 3 guys at home plate waiting for a throw, and none of them got to run around. It was you have to go to MLB.com. You'll find it there. Both Fernando Tatis and Juan Soto are below 260, although they're hitting for power, so they're at least getting something from them there. But not much else to get excited about in San Diego right now. Bob Melvin has got his work cut out for him. Colorado is in 5th place, as you might expect. And Chris Bryant, who had been off to a pretty decent start as far as durability. He had played 50 of their first 58 games, although he had just 5 homers and 17 RBI for the Rockies. He is to the IL as of yesterday with a left heel issue, which is troubling because he had plantar fasciitis in the same foot last year that caused him to miss a good chunk of time. Colorado ended May by being swept by the Diamondbacks, and there doesn't seem to be much else to be excited about there. I think that just about covers everything I wanted to talk about. I don't think there's any football news I want to discuss. Going through my database, no. Okay, well then that's it for this week. This has been Skillz on Sports. I'm your boy Skillz. I hope to be back with you 7 days from now with more NBA Finals updates. We might even will we have a champion by then? Let's see, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. No, Game 4 is until Friday evening, so I won't have news for you about a champion yet. But in any event, I will be back with you. I'll have my Warriors gear on. As you see, I rotate between all my favorite teams, and have a great weekend, upcoming weekend. Happy 70th birthday to my mother coming up.